Ladies and gentlemen, it's Teaksy here and welcome today to The Debate, a brand new series here on the channel where I'm going to be asking you guys Call of Duty questions and posting Call of Duty opinions, allowing you guys, the viewers, the community, to share your opinions prior to me recording the video, and then I will discuss through your answers as well as sharing my own in each video, with the hope of getting to the bottom of how everybody feels about the certain question or the opinion. And of course, if we can't nail it down in the video, we've always got the comment section where we can debate it out further. So I will admit that the question we're focusing on today was uploaded, I think, over 2 months ago, and I sincerely apologize to the 4 of you that took time to respond to it. It was never my intention that it would take this long to record this video, but there's just been multiple things that have got in the way over the course of the last couple of months. However, the question for the next debate video is already up on the community page, so make sure to go and check that one out after this one if you haven't already, and I promise it won't take 2 months to record the video this time around. So the question that I asked you guys was, should Killstreaks count towards nukes within Call of Duty? Let's dive into it. So the tactical nuke has been an iconic part of the multiplayer experience for many years now within Call of Duty, first introduced in Modern Warfare 2 2009, and in the previous 16 Call of Duty titles from MW2 2009 up to Black Ops 6, there's been 12 games that have had callable nukes in. They've had various different names, right? Whether it's a V2 rocket, whether it's a DNA bomb, a tactical nuke, an MGB, whatever it might be, it's been in 12 of the titles. And obviously the 4 titles not to have callable nukes were Black Ops 1, 2, 3, and 4, because for many years Treyarch decided to stick with the nuclear medal over a callable nuke. That was until they added one to Black Ops Cold War and most recently Black Ops 6. So I imagine we're going to see nukes in every COD moving forward. So the big thing to take from the 12 games that had callable nukes is that only 3 of those games allowed you to get the nuke with assistance from some form of kill streaks. In the other 9 titles, you had to get the nuke whether it was 25 kills or 30 kills with your weapon only, right? Which obviously takes a lot more skill and is a much more difficult thing to achieve. Now, when they first introduced the nuke in Modern Warfare 2 2009, little did we know at the time, but that is the easiest it's ever been to get a nuke, because you had Harriers, you had chopper gunners, you had AC-130s, Pavlos, aerial streaks that would help you get to it, and the perfect nuke in MW2 was 7 kills with your weapon, and then your Harriers would get you to 11 kills, your chopper gunner or your AC, and then that would get you to your 25 kills the nuke. Now, it didn't always work out like that, right? But that was the easiest it's been. In Black Ops Cold War, you had hand cannon, death machine, and war machine that would help you. Now, that took a little bit more skill, I think, because you were still running around the map. And the same in Black Ops 6, hand cannon and war machine, once again, helps you get to the nuke. So we had 4 of you that responded. I'm going to go through your answers now and share my thoughts as we go. So firstly, we're starting off with Interesting YouTube Observer, who says he depends. He thinks in Cold War, because you still needed to aim most of the streaks, it was fine, but it kind of sucked in MW2 2009, and he's glad that they removed it in Modern Warfare 3 and Ghosts. Imagine the Ghost Maniac chaining for the nuke, that'd be annoying. So what he's referring to there is obviously in Black Ops Cold War, as we previously mentioned, hand cannon, war machine, and death machine were the only streaks that counted towards the nuke. Now, with all 3 of those streaks, you were still on the map, right? You were still moving around. You still had to aim those streaks. Now, firstly, if you were the death machine, you had much slower movement, which meant that you could get caught a lot more. And one of the big things with all 3 of these streaks was where you're running around the map, you can get bad timing, right? With the death machine, as we say, you're moving slow. With the war machine, you were favoured over most normal players with normal weapons. However, the trophy system would stop the war machine, and so would spawn protection. So if somebody threw a good trophy, or you were trying to shoot at some people just off spawn, if you miss a couple of war machine shots, like the trophy stops it or spawn protection stops it, normally you would end up dying. However, over most players, you would still have a fair advantage. And then the hand cannon was probably the most powerful, because there was no spawn protection. There was absolutely nothing to stop the hand cannon. It was one shot from all distance. There was no spawn protection. So that was probably the most overpowered. But again, the one thing I would say, and what I agree with here, is that you still had to aim the streaks, and you're still moving around the map. And when you're moving around the map, you can get all kinds of things go wrong, bad time and stuff like that. Obviously then goes on to say that it sucked in MW2, and is glad they removed it in MW3 and Ghost. So as we said in MW2, Harriers, chopper gunners, AC-130s, Pavlos counted towards the nuke. Now, of course, when you had your Harriers in the air, or when you were using your chopper or your AC-130, of course, you were controlling the chopper gunner and AC-130. Now, they're a little bit easier to aim than obviously running around the map with a specific streak. But obviously, the chopper gunner in MW2 would sometimes hover in horrible places, right? The AC-130 was probably a little bit better. It was a little bit harder to take AC-130s out. But again, it was very map dependent, right? It wasn't always a walk in the park on that game. However, it is still the easiest it's ever been. And look, as I say, people kind of got used to it over time. You know, people would have stinger classes to take out choppers, to take out ACs. Obviously in the kill cam, if somebody killed you, you could see the little star of where they were laying on the map. So people kind of knew all the little spots people would lay in when they were using streaks. But I definitely agree here. I think it was probably a little bit too easy in MW2. And I would agree if they brought that back, it would be absolutely crazy. And obviously said that imagine the Ghost Maniac chaining for the nukes. So the Ghosts Maniac was like a Juggernaut streak, which was ridiculously powerful, right? Very, very hard to kill. And something like that would have been absolutely insane to work towards the nuke. I also don't know if anybody remembers, but in Modern Warfare 3, they had a game mode called Money in the Dank, which was basically sabotage, but you could be a Juggernaut. One player on the map could be a Juggernaut, get into the Juggernaut suit. And when you were in the Juggernaut suit, obviously you had a lot more health. You were a lot slower running around the map, but you could work towards your specialist bonus, which I think was like 6 or 7 kills. And then you had pretty much every perk in the game. And then you had much more faster movement, at least for a Juggernaut. And again, you could get Moabs that way, which was, you know, ridiculously overpowered. So I definitely agree with what interesting YouTube observer has said about the Ghosts Maniac, because they kind of had it in MW3 and Money in the Dank where you could be a Juggernaut, and that was ridiculously overpowered. Goes on to say at the bottom, this is random, but maybe they could bring back Killstreak variants from Infinite Warfare and have it as an option as one of the variants. I guess that would depend on how good the other variants would be. Now, I don't know lots about the score streak variants in Infinite Warfare, but I'm pretty sure you could have a streak like the UAV, and then there'd be various different versions of the UAV you could use. So you could have one that maybe would last longer, or you could maybe have one that would have extra health, or maybe it was like increased assist points, but it would take more score to actually get the streak in the first place. So I suppose you could say, all right, I want my Harriers to count towards the nuke, but, you know, maybe you have to get 4 more kills to get the Harriers before they bring in. I don't know exactly how that would work, but I suppose it's a possible way of bringing something like that back. I also thought about the kill chain perk from Modern Warfare 2019, where if you use the kill chain perk in Modern Warfare 2019, it then meant that streaks worked like they did in the original MW2. So for example, if you got a double kill with your Predator missile in Modern Warfare 2 2009, that would get you to your Harrier airstrike, right? 5 kills, double kill with the Predator, gets you to your 7 kills in your Harriers. But in most games, it doesn't work like that now. However, in MW19, if you had the kill chain perk on and you got a double kill with your cruise missile, or I think you needed a triple kill because I think it was 8 kills for a VTOL jet in that game. But you know what I mean? You could then link or chain your streaks, but you had to run a specific perk, right? So I guess it's like that trade-off, right? I'm going to run this perk. I can't use any other good perks. Maybe you could put the perk in a really powerful slot with many other kind of goated perks in the game. That's possibly another option. But yeah, I think I agree pretty much with what interesting YouTuber observers said here. And thank you very much for your feedback. So next up, we've got Dan, who says it depends if he's on the receiving end of them or not. Absolutely right. If you're getting nuked, it's frustrating. If you're dropping a nuke or someone on your team's dropping a nuke, it's nowhere near as annoying. Says he doesn't have an issue if the kill streak requires skill to use or if it's a radar streak. He just wishes he was better with the hand cannon in Cold War because it gives you a huge advantage when playing for nukes. Says it's fair that streaks like the helicopter and the VTOL don't count because that would be massively overpowered. So absolutely, I agree with what Dan says here. I mean, often me and Dan play together on Cold War, and Dan will be running like Air Patrol Strafe Run Harp, and I'll be running Air Patrol Hand Cannon Harp. And, you know, the hand cannon gives you a huge advantage, right? You know, you can make mistakes with the hand cannon. If you miss a couple of shots, you can get picked off. And not every hand cannon goes perfectly, but the perfect hand cannon, you get 10 shots, you get 10 kills, right? Which is a huge help towards getting to the 30 kills for the nuke. Whereas if you don't have the hand cannon on, it obviously makes it a lot more difficult. And I think my nuke count in Cold War is like something like 76, I think, nukes I've got. Only 2 of them are weapon only, right? The rest of them have all had some kind of assistance from a hand cannon or a war machine. So I think it's pretty telling, right? From that statistic there, that having kill streaks makes a huge, you know, really helps, gives you a massive advantage. Says that it's fair that streaks like helicopter and VTOL don't count. Yeah, of course, I think the VTOL and the attack helicopter and the chopper gun, as we've discussed with MW2 2009, I think that's way too powerful. I don't think we'll ever see something like that come back. But I am always somewhere in the middle where I do think streaks like hand cannons and stuff do take skill, and I think they do belong in helping people get to nukes. But at the same time, if you're not very good with a hand cannon or war machine, maybe you feel like you're at an unfair advantage. So thank you very much, Dan, for that answer. So next up, we've got Anti, who says he prefers them not to. It makes the nukes feel more special. So I feel like I kind of agree with this. I think if you get a nuke with your weapon only, it does feel like a huge achievement. It is a lot more difficult, so I feel like it is probably a little bit more satisfying to get the nuke. But on the flip side of that, I do feel from a personal preference that if I'm dropping a nuke, I don't care like if it was Killstreaks, if it was not Killstreaks, if it was a bad lobby, a good lobby. Like, I honestly think whenever you drop a nuke in COD, you're having a good time, right? So I do agree with this to a degree, but I feel like I'm probably on the fence a little bit, where just if I use a hand cannon, I don't think it makes it feel less specialist as such, but I feel like it probably is a bit more of an achievement to get it with a weapon only. So yeah, thank you Anti for that answer. So last but not least, we've got Kip2K. Shout out Kip, hope you're well. Not heard from you for a little while, so thank you very much for taking time to respond to this question. Says, although it's super fun to get nukes using streaks, at times it feels like it takes all the skill out of it. I like that only the hand cannon and war machine counted towards the nuke streaks, since you still had to actively aim them. In brackets, although I think the war machine requires less aim and thinking, but overall I would say never bring back streaks counting towards nukes. So I think again Kip's on a very similar kind of trend to what everyone else has said in this video, where didn't have a problem with the hand cannon and the war machine counting in Cold War because you still had to be on the map, you still had to aim them. The war machine was easier to use, but as we mentioned earlier, there were a few more trade-offs with the war machine, such as trophy system stopping it and spawn protection, whereas the hand cannon was a little bit more difficult to use, but was a one-shot kill from any distance and had nothing to stop it, right? No spawn protection or anything like that. And obviously went on to say that he would never bring back streaks counting towards nukes. So I think I probably agree with Kip here. I get the fact that I don't think it takes all of the skill out of it to use hand cannon and the war machine, but as I said earlier, with that statistic where I've dropped like 70 plus nukes and only 2 of them have come weapon only, it obviously does make it a lot more difficult. I'm not being like completely blasé to that, right? I can completely understand that, and I feel like probably part of me like leans towards streaks counting because I would never drop as many, right? So I can hold my hands up and say that, right? A few people might say skill issue, right? And I'll admit, yeah, you know, maybe it is. Maybe nukes should only be for the best possible players, but at the same time, one of my arguments I'd have there is that in the skill-based matchmaking era we're playing now, dropping 30 kills with your weapon only is a pretty tough task. But then again, people might argue that nukes shouldn't be something that you get easily. So big thanks to Kip for that answer. I agree very much with what he said here, and yeah, as I say, thank you for taking the time. So I think overall, guys, the feeling I've got here from the answers that have been given and from my own thoughts is that I think most people are in the middle. They don't mind streaks that are actively controlled by the player, where you're still on the map and you can get bad timing to count. But I feel like a lot of people again are saying that bringing back stuff like Harriers and chopper gunners counting, never do that, right? It'd be too easy. I think Black Ops 6 probably is a good balance, where I think one of the problems in Cold War was with the way the score streak system worked, you could get 2 hand cannons, you could get 2 harps. So at that point, score streaks counting, maybe it made it a little bit too easy, right? Not every game would you get 2 hand cannons and 2 harps. Like sometimes you do it with just 1 set. In MW3, obviously streaks overlapped, so you could get again 2 advanced UAVs on MW3. Although there wasn't any other streak I think that counted in MW3, so it was only the radar that helped. But again, having 2 advanceds is, you know, a big help. Whereas in Black Ops 6, I think it's a lot harder to get score streaks. You can technically overlap hand cannons, but you have to get one, die, use it, and then it somehow works back to another one. So you can technically get 2 hand cannons, but it is harder to get streaks in Black Ops 6, where I think that is kind of the perfect balance. Like, it's a bit harder to get streaks, you can't get 2 harps, you know, you can get 2 hand cannons, but it's not perfect. Where, although I will say in Cold War, air patrols did kill a lot of harps. You kind of had to give up one of your kill streak slots in Cold War. So yeah, there's been a lot of different versions over the years. I think Black Ops 6 is probably the best balanced in terms of having streaks that count, but it not being completely OP. But then a lot of people moan in Black Ops 6 that streaks don't overlap. People think that what MW3 had was good. But then, as we said, MW3 was only radar streaks that, you know, really helped. You couldn't use any other streak to get to the nuke. So yeah, I think that having some form of streaks that count is good, but at the same time I can understand it's a little bit easy. I feel like a lot of people are kind of on the same page about that. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, guys. I really hope you've enjoyed this one. If you have, please hit the like button down below, and I'd love to hear your feedback, not only on the question in the comment section, but on the video as an overall, right? This is the first ever time I'm doing a video like this. Hopefully over time I'll get a little bit more natural, you know, talking about certain topics. You know, I feel like maybe I've jumped around a little bit today. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this, and like I say, I won't take 2 months to record the next one, so please do check out the next question over on the community page for an opportunity to feature in the next debate video. But yeah, all it leaves me to say, guys, is that I hope you will have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.